I watched Logan Paul's podcast with Paul Heyman, and they were talking about being present and like making the memories of moments in your life, whether it's your career, like something that you enjoyed, stuff like that, where nowadays we have these things that we're just growing more and more and more attached to every day, especially the youth. They are gung-ho on those things, and they can't put them down. Constantly distracted. We're all guilty of it. But they were talking about how it's going to be interesting to see how it, affects these newer generations and what they can recall from moments of their life. And Paul Heyman, if you don't know who Paul Heyman is, he is huge in the wrestling business, probably one of the greatest of all time. ECW, he's now in like the story development with WWE and everything, and just a pure genius in the wrestling business. And he can recall all these moments in his career and who was there, who was involved, who he talked to, the companies, just so many details that he could pull from, all these different stories. And you only get that when you're not just being pulled in every which direction from God knows what. And they were having the conversation, and Paul Heyman said, to Logan Paul, he said, I bet you remember the first time that you held your daughter, because he just had a baby not too long ago. And he goes, I bet you could tell me every emotion that you felt, every thought that went through your brain, and you could tell me everything about it. Which is true. Big moments like that, you will remember pretty much everything about them. And I feel like that's never going to change. Like those big key moments of your life, whether it's happy, sad, traumatizing, whatever it may be, like those are moments that no matter how distracted you are, you're going to remember a lot, if not all, details about those moments.
I'll bet you neither of them could remember the time.
Like the time?
The actual time?
Well, that's a small detail. Like I'm not watching my daughter be born and being like, gotta check the clock.
It's on the birth certificate.
Yes.
Well, no, that's the peculiar thing that I'm pointing out, is that all mothers I know could tell you the exact time.
Mothers can tell the time. They're also the ones that go, yeah, she's 72 months old. Yeah, they're 12 months.
Not around me.
Oh, you mean a year? No, 12 months. How old's your kid? 24 months. Oh, you mean 2? No, 24 months.
I'm going to start articulating everything in days.
I hate that. Anyway, getting off topic. Yes, there's us as men I don't care about the time that they were born. I just care that they were born. Everything was fine. They're healthy. We go through enough with our brain when that kind of thing happens.
1:38 p.m.
Congratulations.
I'm just saying, I'm weird. But
we know.
Because I remember the whole fucking day. Like, I could take you back and walk you through, I guess, 2 a.m. clear on until, just after she was born. Just because I'm weird. Like, I process shit in an odd way.
We know.
But yeah, aware. I mean, those big moments, that's why they call them big moments. I mean, the same goes true for, the bad ones.
You're always going to remember the birth of your children. You're always going to remember your wedding day. You're always going to remember, you know, the loss of your parents, the loss of a friend, the loss of a relative of some sort. Like, if they're important to you, you will remember it.
Well, I mean,
even if they're
the
not,
time.
if it's like your first like funeral, like you'll remember that.
Well, no, like I can take you back to the first funeral I went to in 1997 in January, and about how I dropped my toy airplane in the little fountain in the lobby of the funeral, and I was like, shit, how am I going to get this? And you know, I'm like walking back and forth between the fucking casket and my damn airplane, and I'm like, I don't want to bother anybody because somebody just died, and I know that their life probably isn't going so well. But
Yeah.
and then eventually I just grabbed it out of the fucking fountain. I was like, oh, I didn't get in trouble. Okay. Where was I going with that? The big moments. Yes, the big moments have an impact on you. And to your point, the good ones, the bad ones, they're like just these defining moments in your life. And I worry that some of these kids aren't going to even remember those.
I think the big moments like that are...
Real quick, it's funny though. If it's good, I guess wedding could go either way. Well, for you, I'm sure it was great. For me, I'm just like, fuck, why'd I spend that money? But, you know, definitely birth of your kids, right? Happy moment.
100%.
Graduation.
Even if it's a traumatizing moment. Like,
well, yours, we're not getting there. But,
yeah, with Bronson, relatively traumatizing and chaos.
But thank you for using that word. If it's good, we're happy about it. We call it a memory.
Sure.
If it's bad, we're sad about it. We call it trauma.
In my humble opinion, I think people throw around trauma a little bit too much. Like it gets misused quite a bit, if I'm going to be completely honest. They're like, oh my God, when I was 3, I had a red car and I threw it in the street one day and I got ran over, and ever since I just can't look at red cars. It's just my trauma. And you're just like,
no, it's your fucking reminder not to go get a red car. I mean, you know my take on that, so I don't think we're diving into that part.
It gets a little misused, but I digress.
I really don't think some of these kids are going to remember some of the big things. Not the way we did.
Oh, I don't think it will be, you know, like... Another thing, too, about from the time we grew up versus how these kids are growing up is I still have physical pictures to look at that capture those times. And those pictures, they only go somewhere if I decide to throw them away. Whereas this could just explode, and everything that I have that isn't backed up is now gone.
What isn't backed up?
Probably a lot. I don't keep up.
You don't have an iCloud backup?
It doesn't back up for some reason, probably because I have too many pictures and stuff on there that I haven't gone through. But still, like,
I mean,
it can, like, this could just be like gone. And even with like the cloud and stuff, like, what happens if the cloud just decided to not work or crash, or it gets hacked and everything just disappears? Like, then all of that is gone.
I mean, if you really want me to explain that, I can, but...
I mean, we don't have to go into crazy details.
Let's just say the cloud's safe. Trust me.
Sure.
It's my job to make sure that happens, so...
But, you know, even if you keep a bunch of stuff on a hard drive, like, that hard drive fails...
Oh, yeah, hard drive's not safe. It's a single point of failure. But those pictures, you know, it took a lot more effort to get them. You actually had to, like, either take... Well, first of all, you have to take the picture.
Yeah.
Then you have to take it, turn it in, develop it, get it printed.
Yeah.
That's a trip to either...
Rite Aid, Walgreens.
Yep, Walmart, things like that.
Walmart.
The disposables were great. I showed my daughter a disposable camera that I still have, and she was mind blown that you could capture pictures on this device. You took it places to have people print them, and then it's like, well, if your house burns down, pictures burn pretty well.
Yes.
So there's risk in both of them, but there's something nostalgic about. Like,
I mean, to be fair, these pictures have survived since the 90s. And some of them are even older than that by like a good, 20 years or so.
I have some old ass photos.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, is that's a single, like each of those pictures represents a single point of failure, because if it's not stored anywhere where it can be backed up or duplicated or just stored in multiple places and something happens, like you're looking at them and some kid the kid walks up and knocks his fucking Hawaiian punch over on the coffee table. It's like, well, we had this picture of Uncle Paul, but it looks like Uncle Paul's awful red now.
Yeah, and the thing about pictures too is you could see a picture and you can I can look at a picture that I have on here or pictures that I have up there from my childhood and be like, oh, like I remember that, or oh, I could tell you about that moment or this or that. Like you can recall those if you have that little like visual reminder, but you also have to think now, like, with as many as like you can just pull out your phone and take a picture at any point of any moment.
Do you have the same case as me?
No.
Did you? Oh no, you have the black bumpers.
You can just pull out your phone and take a picture at any moment and capture it, and then just forget about it. How many can recall those pictures when they scroll through and look at them? You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people probably. I mean, like, let's try it. Open it. Go into your Photos app. Go back to the first picture you have.
The very first picture that I have?
Yep.
Okay.
Is it appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
The very first picture that I have is a collage picture of my wife and I's first apartment when we got everything set up in there. And it was a one-bedroom apartment. It was above, like it was a house, and we were on like the second floor. We had a separate entrance where we went up the stairs. There was like a kind of like a loft area that was above a barn-ish garage thing. And you walked to our front door. We opened the door. You were in the living room. The kitchen was in the corner, very small. The stove was tiny. We barely fit like a little circle dining room table, and we didn't even use it to eat. We used it for the microwave. We bought our first couch from Big Lots to put in there. I got a couch that was free from my boss that we put in there on the other side. The same entertainment center that we had in there is in our living room currently. I had my desk to the right. It was against a door that just didn't open. Don't know where it led. Had no clue. I had my little like setup there from like my games and stuff with a little monitor. We had our little tiny bathroom with a claw tub, and the curtain you would pull around and it would get stuck to you because it was so cram-packed in there. And our bedroom was in the back, and we had a little walk-in closet that was actually pretty nice. And I remember the first couple of nights that we were there, you would hear this like little scratching, and we had no idea what it was. Well, when we moved out of that apartment, we figured out that it was a rat. But yeah, that's the first picture is a collage of our first apartment, which was the first place that we lived at on our own.
And you can recall that right off the bat.
Yep.
I can recall mine. I'm going to kick myself. I already want to kick myself for this because I had no idea it was this picture. It's a photo of my grandfather holding Adelaide at her first birthday party.
Oh, that's rough.
Where's the camera? Camera's up there. But
oh, man.
Yeah, so the date on this is actually wrong. It wasn't in 2005. This one was in 2013. It's actually in the living room of my house now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not mine, but I'm staying there until we get everything figured out. He's in the hallway looking back towards the dining room. That's like, we've had a couple birthday parties for her. And I'm not more than a couple, but like a few big ones. And the first one was definitely one of the big ones. Like, she got a special dress. She had like a little hat that said "I'm one." She did the cake thing.
The first birthday is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge deal. And because it was, 2013, so long ago, it was kind of that party where both of my grandparents who had raised me were still with it, and like they were, able to enjoy it, and my whole family was there. It was a great time. I remember being really stressed out about it, but truth be told, I didn't do a whole hell of a lot for it.
Yeah,
it was kind of more like my mom was like, "Let's have a birthday party for her because she's one." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I was going to do that." And she's like, "Oh, I'll help." And I'm like, "Here we go."
All right, now, so I'll just do this. I'll do a big scroll, and I'll stop it.
We're going to do a shuffle?
So, this is obvious, so I'm not going to choose that one. So, all right. I mean, so this is when Lydia was about to turn 2. No, 1. She was about to turn 1. Well, 2 months away from turning 1. And we took her out front of the house that we live in now, and we wanted to do like a little photo shoot for fall. So we got a little flannel blanket, and she had a little pumpkin.
Aww.
And we did a little photo shoot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did a shuffle, but it wasn't enough, so I shuffled again.
I had to shuffle a couple times because one was just her and her walker, and it's like, well, you have 1,000 of those.
And it's also very ironic that I come up on this fucking picture, because it's me and the singer from Amber Lynn at Warped Tour in 2014. He's actually kind of like their pseudo singer now. I mean, he'll always be their singer, but Maddie Mullins is singing for them live. Yeah. Remember that day? Remember how they had like the Warhead stage, and I do forget what the other stage was. It was next to it, but they were like right next to each other, and they switched off so you could just stay in the same spot and chill.
Yeah.
And they put like all of this, like Anne Boleyn, Bayside, Yellow, they were all like on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, if you were in that niche, you were in the place. And I mean, I remember like Bayside opening was Sick, Sick, Sick. And dude, what a day. It was hot as hell, but
yeah.
So
like we have these pictures and we can, recall.
Well, that's over 10 years ago.
I mean, the picture of our first apartment, I mean.
That's what, 1985?
Yeah. This was from 2015. That's probably about right, yeah. 2015. Yeah.
10 years.
Yep, that's about right. So yeah, that was 10 years ago. But I can remember that apartment vividly. I can remember moments from that apartment. There was one time that I can recall, two. We used to have a little dachshund, and she had a little bell on her neck, on her collar, so she would jingle every time she would run around, and it was adorable. And she had her food bowl, which like was this metal framed food and water bowl combined into one, and somehow her bell got caught. So she went to she went to like go away from her food and water dish, and the food and water dish went with her, and she was very skittish, and it freaked her out. So she kept running, which she couldn't get unstuck. So she just freaked out more. And I remember, I think Alicia was cooking, and she was like, "Oh my God, what the heck?" And I had to frantically like go and help her out. And then when we had to take our dash hound out to go to the bathroom, it was the worst because we had to go out into like the loft, which was freezing cold out there, and we'd had to go down all these steps. And our dash hound would go down the steps, and then she would go outside, and she would take forever. And the one time we had the leash, and it knocked against the railing, and we were like 5 steps up from the bottom. The leash hit the railing, and our dash hound just decided, just leaped off the step.
That's wild.
Yeah, like those kinds of moments, like I can remember vividly. Buying our first house, and
that's the thing. Like, you think about the photo, it captures the image.
Mm-hmm.
So the construct of your mind, your memories, are intrinsically visual.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think back to that party, or I think back to Warped Tour. I remember what song they played. That's a sound. But the song itself is an idea, a combination. So that's a little bit different. But you get the same sense with like smells. Have you ever noticed how like if you smell something that's familiar, it triggers that memory back to, a time that you had that smell.
Mm-hmm.
But photos are especially like, if you're not blind, which if you are, I'm sorry to hear that, because that's got to be challenging. But if you're not, most of your life is based around the visual component of it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so like just easy to recall. Like I saw it online. Somebody recreated a song in strictly MIDI, just MIDI tones.
Mm-hmm.
No vocals. Played it. You can hear the lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean like you can you can imagine hearing the lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean that as the song progresses and gets deeper and deeper in, and certain parts are actually more prevalent than the others, you can hear the lyrics because your mind is capturing all of those different points in your hearing range, and your aural range, and it's combining them, and then it's linking it neurally to the memory of that song, and then it's resurfacing it. So the mind's like super powerful, crazy smart. Doesn't matter who you are, I don't care. It will like just kind of like trick itself into believing certain things, almost like caching on a computer, if you're familiar with that. If something's playing while you're doing something else, you're hearing it, but you're not listening to it.
Yeah.
Listening requires attention.
Mm-hmm.
The generalization is that kids are sponges, and that your memory gets worse as you get older. Like, it gets harder to learn things or harder to remember things. I don't know if I just am backwards, or like I don't think I am, like, but I see kids today and it's like, I don't remember that. And it's like, how the you not remember that? Like,
see, that's a thing too, is with like sometimes I don't even like remember shit from like 2 days ago. I'm like, what did we do 2 days ago? Like,
well, and I think that's a reflection upon a few things. One, distraction. I mean, like, if we're having a conversation, unless I am, like, in the instances that I do pick up my phone to address something that's going on, I have to make a conscious effort to actively listen to you
Yeah.
while I'm simultaneously addressing the clusterfuck, whatever. But I'm doing that. Like, I'm acknowledging the fact that I need to give that extra step right there.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of cases, people will be like, you know, if you're sitting there in the living room and you're like on Tetris on your phone or whatever game you're playing, and somebody's talking to you and say, yeah, uh-huh. And then they come back an hour later and say, did you, what? I wasn't supposed to do that. Bullshit!
Yeah.
That's a problem. And I think that the other aspect of that is the speed at which we are living.
And I think also, like, yeah, the speed that we're living, it's ridiculous. But with kids, they don't know moderation. They don't know when to pull their attention from one thing to put it into another.
Well, moderation isn't a thing.
It's the typical, your kid's sitting there playing, like my daughter will sit there and play the Switch, and we'll be like, hey, can you do this? And she'll try and take the Switch with her and, like, walk with the Switch in her hand. And we're like, put the Switch down so that you can do the thing. And when you're done doing the thing, then you can come back to the Switch. That's fine.
Well,
and then she'd like, oh, and then she puts it down and then goes and does the thing and then comes back and then.
Since the dawn of time, kids have always been the hallmark of embracing satisfaction on something where it's like, oh, I'm not just going to eat one cookie. I'm not going to eat 5 cookies.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to eat 20 cookies.
I'm going to eat all of the cookies that are in the house.
Yes.
Which is my child.
Until I get sick.
Like, she, surprisingly enough, doesn't, like, there are things that you're just like, you've had 1,000 of them. That's all.
Yeah.
You don't need any more. Like tomatoes. Like, she will house tomatoes. And she'll be like, can I have more tomatoes? And it's like, you just ate like a bowl of cherry tomatoes. How could you possibly want more? You'll give her like a couple more. And then she's like, can I have more tomatoes? And it's like, no.
Well, I mean, tomatoes are like, it'd be different than like candies and shit. But
well, she's like
at the
that,
same
with
token,
candies where, you give her like 2 Hershey Kisses. And then she's like, can I have just one more? And you're just like, no.
Well, you got to worry about acid reflux with tomatoes, really. But like, if she were to house like 2 of those little grape tomato or cherry tomato things, like, she ain't gonna feel good.
Yeah.
But that's it. That, like, they don't know to stop because they think it's good, and more good is better.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't stop themselves to say, oh wait, if I eat it all today, I'm not gonna have any tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or shit like that. I also, like, we see ADHD becoming increasingly prevalent and diagnosed more and more frequently in younger and younger ages, and I sit back and I'm like, is it really ADHD?
Could you imagine? I would lose my mind, but could you imagine growing up in today's world of you don't have to think about something to do because there's 17,000 things for you to do all at once.
Well, and yet kids get bored.
Because they can't sit down and do something.
Oh, no,
because
they can do something.
They want to do something for 5 minutes, then do the next thing for 5 minutes, and do the next thing for 5 minutes. And when they've run through everything for 5 minutes, they're like, well, what do I do now?
There's another phase to that, though. There's the phase where you want to do what you want to do, and you're going to do that for 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
And if you're told not to do that, literally anything else is boring because it's not what you want.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. No.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like when we ask Lydia to pick something, like to pick up the living room. We're like, you got to clean up the living room.
oh,
like,
we don't want to do that. No, we're not doing
and
that.
she's like, it's boring. And it's like, well, it's boring to me too. And I'm not going to be the one cleaning up. You are old enough. You clean it up.
Well, and I mean, too, that's responsibility. That's accountability. That's, really learning to be bored. I don't want to say it's learning to be bored because even when you're cleaning up, you're not bored.
But that's a thing now is kids are normally never bored now. You always have something to do.
That's why it's so painful when they are.
Exactly. Goodness. But
What in the literal fuck?
they're never bored. There's never a down moment. So when they have that down moment where they have nothing to do, their heads explode.
Well, yeah, they don't know how to cope with it. They don't know how to cope with that feeling of, oh, I have this energy and I have all this focus and I need somewhere to put it, but I can't. So what do? And it's like, you just do. Like, I don't know how to articulate that idea of, I don't have anywhere to put my focus. Well, one, why do you feel the urgent need to do something?
Yeah.
Like, is there an urgent need to do something? And, you think back to when we were kids, we had a lot at our fingertips, sure. Yeah, I mean, we have video games, multiple video games. We could go outside, ride bikes, play sports, go skateboard, do all kinds of shit. We had multiple things to
do, but when you did one thing, like, you were doing it.
Yeah. Other than video games, here's the big difference. You were moving.
Yeah.
You weren't parked on your bed with a fucking device in your hand playing 18 different games sequentially.
Yeah.
And just everything in a little virtual world where you don't even have to move.
Yeah.
Like, you, sure, granted, I've had times that I played video games for 12 hours straight, 15 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the norm because at some point somebody wants the fucking TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think that their memory is, are going to... It is going to be a lot different. And it's going to be a lot less.
Yo, I'm Apophis 2032. Come back around, baby.
But just one more thing before we go out. I was sitting on the recliner and I was doing something. I can't remember what I was doing. Speaking of memory, yeah.
What are you talking about, kids, man?
But my daughter was like hounding me for something. She just, boom, like half a second would go by and she would ask me again. And I got to the point where I was like, look, you need to learn patience. I said, sit down on that pillow where you're at and do not say a word. Just sit there.
That didn't work.
I shit you not. She sat down on that pillow, did not say a word, didn't even move for at least 5 to 7 minutes.
She didn't tell you that she needed to go to the bathroom, right?
No.
Okay.
So I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, because that's impressive.
Because
she must have really wanted it.
Just sat down and just... And I was like... I was ready like 3 minutes into it, but I wanted to see how long she could sit there and not do anything. And then I was like, okay, now you may ask me what you need me to do, and I will, do it. And she needed help with like a level on the Switch. And I was like, okay. So I grabbed the Switch. I think I was probably tending to Bronson. That's usually what is the case. Like, I'm feeding Bronson, and she...
Oh, you're lactating right now?
She comes up to me and she wants me to do something. I'm like holding a baby with a bottle, and I'm like...
Oh, you're not lactating. Okay.
Like, so you want me, like, to play the Switch while... Like, that's not going to work.
You need a neural link.
So she, I made her sit down while he finished, and I burped him, and then I put him in a swing, which he also was not happy about, but you can let him cry. But she... like sat patiently and waited, and I was like, okay. And that was like that light bulb moment where I'm like, maybe I make that a point. Because if you do that enough...
Tread lightly with it.
Yes, tread lightly with it. You can't go crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that just gets authoritarian after too long.
Exactly. But, she is getting better with, like, that kind of stuff.
We have a
thankfully
we have a life-size hamster wheel in my house. I just put the phone in a little baggie in front of it and hang it and hold a carrot.
I believe it. All right, Andy. That's enough for the night. We got off to a late start. We played a pretty
shitty game.
And like, comment, subscribe, talk to us. Join us. Join us when we come on live. Follow us on Instagram. Do the thing. Do the stuff. All the typical stuff that you do for YouTube things.
We'll see you guys on the other side.
Bye-bye.
We're Dad's Game Room.
I was going to sit here and hold the mouse over the stop streaming and just wait until you noticed, like, if I was going to click it.
Are we going to do it? We're Dad's Game Room.